Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products. Well, today we're taking a look at a lens, and it's another Sigma lens, and the one we're looking at is the Sigma 16mm DC DN lens, and I bought it for micro four thirds. Now I've got the other two lenses as well. I've got the 56mm DC DN for micro four thirds, and I've got the 30mm DC DN for micro four thirds, of which I've reviewed both of those lenses in the past. You'll see them on my YouTube channel somewhere. I may even put a link up here somewhere. No, it's up this side, isn't it? To probably the 30mm lens. And I love these lenses. They're tag sharp, they're great value for money, and I thought, well, I needed a wider angle lens for my micro four thirds, because obviously with micro four thirds, a 16mm, as in this one, becomes 32mm, which is kind of, well, it's actually very similar to my full frame Sony 35mm, which is getting the wide shot here. So I've got both my A7Cs filming today. I've also got my my new Apple iPhone 12 filming the wide shot. I'm just very curious, really, and that's why I love doing this channel. I love playing with new gear just to see, you know, what you can and cannot get away with. Now, I say get away with, the iPhone 12 isn't a cheap phone, but apparently it's got a great camera. So I'm just purely interested to see how good the camera is. I'm using Filmic Pro as my bit of software. Everything's on automatic. I can't work with mobile phones. I've struggled and struggled trying to get around manual on a mobile phone, and I'll go through that in another video, purely because there is no aperture control. You're really stuck with shutter speed and ISO. So the exposure triangle is very different to what it is using a conventional mirrorless camera or DSLR. So there we go, that's for 16mm. Got a nice, you know, decent plastic, fantastic lens hood. That shields from stray light coming into the lens quite nicely. It's actually a larger lens than the 56mm and the 30mm. You can see here, if we take a look at the 30mm, you can see there that there's quite a contrast in size between these two lenses. Oh, there we go. One is quite a bit bigger than the other one, and if you compare it with the 56mm, even more so. I don't know where, it must be to do with the configuration of the optics. I don't know why that would be, but you can see there, I'll get that right, you can see there's quite a size difference in the lenses. Maybe you can see it better on that angle, I don't know. But there's quite a difference in the, you know, the lenses, but works nicely on the micro four thirds format. So of course 16mm, as I said earlier, is your 35mm wide angle lens, wide-ish. It's obviously wider than 50, so it's not a great portrait lens, and I wouldn't use it for portraits. What I want to use it for is here in the studio for video content. So I can actually set up two angles. So I'll have my Sony A7Cs and my A7R3 as one angle shooting this side, but on the other side of the studio I can permanently set up my GH5 Mark II, my G9, and possibly another micro four thirds camera over on the other side. I haven't quite decided yet how I'm going to do it, but I needed something wider than what I was using, because the 30mm isn't wide enough. 30mm is effectively 60mm, obviously, in full frame terms, so that isn't very wide. That's more of a short portrait lens, isn't it? A short telephoto lens. But there it is on the G9. It's weather sealed. It doesn't look like it's weather sealed though, but apparently according to the internet it is a weather sealed lens. I can't see a weather sealing gasket on there, but you know, it is a nicely made lens. It isn't poor quality, it's a really nicely made lens. And you know, these lenses are so good value. They really are so good value, and they're tag sharp. It's got a really nice focus ring, just the same as on the 56 and the 30. So you've got a lovely focus ring there for manual focusing. It is fly-by-wire, so it will just keep turning and turning and turning. So pretty hopeless for rack focusing. So, you know, but I would think, I don't use manual focus, but I would think once you've got the focus set, it'll be fine. And there's not a lot one can say about it because it's a very simplistic design. There are no switches on it. It hasn't got image stabilization. Again, neither have the other two. So you can see really, if you've watched one review on one of them, that pretty much goes throughout this the trilogy, the 3 lenses. So there is no image stabilization, but with Micro Four Thirds, I mean, it's not a big issue because the EM5 Mark III and the EM1 Mark II and 3 have got fantastic image stabilization. So has the GH5 Mark II, the GH5, the G9, which I've got it fitted to on here. So the image stabilization is great. Now, we'll look at some stills in a moment, and there's something that I found interesting with the stills. It's early days yet because I've only had the lens, I've had it less than a week. So it is early days. But that is effectively the lens. And, you know, what more can one say about it? Other than now going through some of the images. Now, I took the photographs using my G9 and the GH5 Mark II, which I've got here, and I'm really enjoying the GH5 Mark II. It is a great step up, I think, from the GH5. Although, to be fair, if you're a manual focuser, then the big advantages over the GH5 II are very, very little, if any, over the GH5. So, but I don't use manual focus. I have to use autofocus for stills and for video. But that's for GH5 Mark II. But what I did find, the results that I got from the G9 were better, as far as autofocus was concerned, were better on the G9 than they were on the GH5 Mark II. Now, that could be because I'm not used to using the GH5 Mark II yet. It could be I've only taken a few sample images, so I've not really got to grips with it. But if we find some desk space, so if we look here, now these were taken on the G9. Where's my mouse? Here we go. Just check that. Yeah, these were taken on the G9. And both the G9 and the GH5 Mark II have got animal eye detect and human eye detect, obviously. But not only has it got animal eye detect, if it doesn't find the eye, it will find the face. And if it can't find the face, it will find the body. So you've got 3 chances there of getting perfect autofocus. And I found that more reliable, with animals anyway, more reliable on the G9, oddly enough, than I did on the GH5 Mark II. So, and I was just in the garden, like photographing me cats. And like this one here. Now, it couldn't pick up its eye, but if we look at that, look how sharp his teeth are and his whiskers here. Absolutely tag sharp. And, you know, as I said earlier, the 16mm certainly isn't a portrait lens. If I was doing this properly, I wouldn't be using the 16mm. I'd be using at least the 30mm, but probably more likely the 56mm. You know, playing with it, that's what I found. And even if you're not filming or photographing animals, you know, it's a sharp lens, edge to edge. It's just really nice. Now, I mean, I was shooting at f1.4, and it's still getting, even with a wide angle lens, it's still getting some bokeh. It's not bokeh-licious, but it is there. There is separation between the subject and the background, and I think that is, you know, that is great. And you look at this here, that bottle has come out tag sharp. We can actually take the, let's take the exposure of that down a bit, take the highlights down a bit, and bring the shadows up just a little bit, just to bring out a little bit more detail. And we can take the highlights down even more, actually, I think. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, so it's a, you know, lovely, lovely lens to use. Again, there, beautifully sharp. Now, if we look at shots like this, now I'm really enjoying doing these sort of shots. I'm not quite sure if my Sonys and me Fuji, certainly not the Fuji, but I think my Sonys might cope with it. But shooting through something. Now, look, I've shot Sam through grass. Now you can see this huge piece of grass in the front here. It hasn't focused on anything else. It has found the cat's eyes, and it has focused on the eye. And you just physically won't be able to get sharper than that. So great that, you know, if you are going out and about doing, you know, some wildlife photography, even your own, you know, your own pets, you can pretty much be assured it will pick the eye or the body out. And I wasn't concentrating on this, I was just snapping away, you know. I deliberately wasn't concentrating on getting the shot, and I was just snapping away, and that's what I came up with. And I found on the G9 my keeper rate was higher than what it was on the GH5 Mark II. Now, maybe if I didn't have it set up right, it could be a number of issues. So I'm not going to criticise that just yet, but that was just my early findings. Again, yeah, look at the eye here. Now, f1.4, you know, that really is a really wide aperture, and the camera's, you know, computer has to work really hard to get the right piece in focus that you're focusing on, because the depth of field falls off really quick. You know, the focus point will fall off that really quick. If you was using f2.8, f3, f4, whatever, you've got a much better chance of getting more in focus. So so it was a deliberate thing to shoot so wide. I mean, look at this huge, great tree, plant, whatever it is in the foreground. It's missed that and gone straight through to Sam. I mean, that's great. Even with Jack here, the old boy, you know, he's in darkness, but his eyes are lovely. They've come out really good. I can actually bring up a little bit of, let's bring up a little bit of detail in that, because I'm going to bring up a bit of, let's add a bit of structure to that and a bit of clarity. Or a bit too much. Take that down a bit. That's a bit better. You know, now here's an example of getting your focus point right in the first place. Now I just shot this rake on the ground, and look, shooting at f1.4, the accuracy has to be so spot on to get the focus point right. And it's focused, actually, I must have set the focus point on the grass in the foreground here. And that's the point I'm trying to get at. It has picked its eyes, you know, the cat's eyes out. I mean, that's brilliant. Again, there. I'm not going to keep harping on about this. I think you've definitely got the point. The lens is sharp. It's a great lens. And that would be the same for whether it's for APS-C or for Micro Four Thirds. Now, this lens is only manufactured. It is a crop sensor lens. It's designed for crop sensor bodies. So it's available in the Micro Four Thirds format, the Sony E-mount, APS-C E-mount format, although you could put it on a full frame body, but it would default to its APS-C crop mode. And it's available in the Sigma L mount, and also the Canon EF-M mount, so Canon's mirrorless APS-C range mount. And I think value for money is phenomenal because it is sharp. It's a lovely lens. And you know, if you've got the three of them, the three primes, which is the 16mm, the 30mm and the 56mm, you don't need really much more unless you're doing wildlife photography. You would want a telephoto lens, but although on Micro Four Thirds 56mm is 112, so that would become a fantastic portrait lens, you know, as much as anything else. And you know, it works, they work great, and you can get some stunning images. I was well chuffed with these images. And again, if we look at on the GH5 Mark II, let's go to grid view. For example, these ones here, now they are, you know, that is sharp. That's really sharp around the eye there. It's lovely, but I had to take about 5 or 6 or 7 to get the one keeper. So I think maybe I haven't got the GH5 Mark II quite set up right for photography. But I also found that the handling on the G9 is just really nice for stills. It's got this excellent grip, a really wonderful grip. And the viewfinder is phenomenal. The viewfinder is fantastic. It's very much like looking through a viewfinder of a full frame camera. It is so crisp and, well, it's just stunning. It really is stunning. It's the best viewfinder I've used on any camera that I've ever used. So full marks to Panasonic for making a really excellent hybrid stills and video camera. it's a great piece of kit. So I know when I'm going out taking photographs, I almost certainly probably won't use a GH5 Mark II, although it's certainly capable of it, because it's the same sensor. The innards are very similar, but it's for handling of a G9 is fantastic. I've yet to try it on my EM5 Mark III. Be interesting to see how good it is on that. But as I say, the only thing I did find was the keeper rate on the GH5 Mark II wasn't as good as what it was on the G9. Certainly with the G9's version 2.4 firmware update. But again, this is shot on the GH5 Mark II. Excellent, so sharp. You know, absolutely wonderful. I'm loving, this Micro Four Thirds format. I really am. And I've done a video, which I will link up here somewhere, with an autofocus comparison, video between the GH5 Mark II and the G9. And many people commenting on how good now the GH5 Mark II's autofocus is and the G9's autofocus is in video. So, and I'll be using this lens quite a bit for video, certainly in the studio environment such as this. It's wonderful. There's not much more I can say about these lenses now. So what I would say though, this software that I'm using, if anyone might be of interest to know, I'm using Capture One Pro. I will put a link in the description where you can download a trial version of Capture One. It don't cost you anything. You haven't got to put a credit card or debit card in. Just put your email address in and you can download the trial version. And if you like it, I'll put a link to where you can actually purchase it from. But if you put the code in when you do buy it, AVP10, you'll get 10% off your purchase price or the subscription value, because they do both models. They do a subscription model or an outright purchase model. I actually purchased it. I paid full price for it, and I loved it so much I contacted Capture One to see if I could offer my viewers, a discount, and they were very kindly, they very kindly said yes, I can. So there we go. It's a great bit of software, very similar to Lightroom. You got your library, you got your catalogue. So it basically does very much like Lightroom does. But I just think it's quicker and easier to use than Lightroom, but everyone will have their own opinion on that. Yeah, there we go. That's my quick overview of the Sigma 16mm, and I guess really looking at the other two lenses as well, but the Sigma 16mm DC DN F1.4 lens for the in this particular model, it's for the Micro Four Thirds format, but as I say, it is available in other mounts. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like the video if you did find this useful, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. It really helps me grow the channel. I do read every comment. I'm really appreciative of the comments that I get. And buy me a coffee if you want to buy me a coffee or buy me a cup of tea. There'll be a link in the description where you can do that. So thanks very much, and stay tuned for more videos relating to video and photography. Cheers for now. Bye.